Hi, I'm Attorney Trixie Cruz-Angeles.
And I'm Attorney Edwin Lacierda, and this is
The Spokes. From the Palace. From the Palace halls, then to our group chats now,
We will be giving you conversations that will make you think and assess.
so that you could come up with your own personal opinion.
And what we want to present are two sides of each political or governance concern.
For our first noted by the Spokes topic, Ombudsman Remulla finds a money trail connecting Senator Chis Escudero to irregularities in flood control projects. What is this money trail?
That's interesting. I don't even know. He just mentioned that there seems to be a money trail that can trace a direct link from Chis Escudero to the former speaker. That's a new discovery, and hopefully he will expound on that. But
Parang teaser.
yun na nga,
Parang nagti-teaser si OMB.
parang hindi lang naman siya eh. Parang,
Well, I get it.
lahat sila, no? Parang they're all trying to tell us something's happening, we're doing our job, and each day will be a day of revelation. So, but it also, sometimes, ano bang meron kayo? So,
Kaya nga eh. So, and it makes me feel like there is, well, actually, niluluto siya. So, konting ano naman, parang, it just feels like it's so showbiz. Uy, may teaser, ano yan, trailer.
I think it's also a response to a previous perception that this administration is so lacking in performance. And that's why it borders on being performative, but I think whenever Ombudsman Boying says something, at least he can really support it with whatever he has said. But it bothers me that it's all being telegraphed.
Yun nga eh. So,
There's a good sense to that in that the public knows, may ginagawa ang gobyerno. On the other hand, if you're telegraphing your
moves to your opponents.
you're telling the enemy, ito, paghandaan nyo na and all that. So it's a balance that I think they're treading a balance, and I hope that Ombudsman Boying knows what he's doing, and to make sure that the people concerned are fully prosecuted.
Well, for example, one theme in that was when they were establishing the ICI, broadcast, going and seeing all of these projects without actually conducting the investigation yet, which led people to think, well, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to let them get away?
Yeah.
Because they were already mentioning specific projects, and then these specific projects, of course, had people behind them, but nobody was, well, of course, you can't have a whole departure order without a case. You can't even have a watch list order.
There's also now a concern that since Ombudsman Boying has been very proactive in prosecuting, investigating the case, and informing us what's happening in the office of the Ombudsman, the question is the ICI still relevant? Because
That's a good question.
the only reason why we came up with the ICI is supposedly to expedite the investigation process, to investigate whatever the corruption scandal. We're now seeing it in the Office of the Ombudsman, and the whole Senate Blue Ribbon Hearing Committee, Boying was there. So they've been gathering evidence from the start as DOJ then.
Yes, yes.
No, and the reason why, I forgot to mention, there appears to be an inactivity on the part of the Ombudsman he retired already at
Yes,
that point.
because he was on his way out.
Yes, that's why you need to tell the public that we're moving on this. In response to may mahiya naman kayo, he formed the ICI. But now that Boying Remulla is very actively prosecuting this case or investigating, do we still need an ICI? Because at the end of the day, what does the effect of ICI do? The net effect is we're investigating, but we're not filing cases. We are recommending charges. So, kung gano'n lang naman ang gagawin nyo, nandiyan na si Ombudsman. No? Sayang ka pa sa pera, huwag na pondohin ng Office of the President.
That's why they went. So, hence the assurance.
Yes.
Ganon. Okay. Wow. Well, they also found the Ombudsman Remulla has said that there's also allegedly negligent finding of negligence on the part of former Speaker Martin Romualdez in relation to his appointment of Congressman Zaldico. Gross negligence.
It's, well, they're based on the theory of command responsibility. No? But I really don't know how strong that case is. Parang there are only two ways naman to commit a crime. It's an act of omission or commission. And in this case, Ombudsman Remulla is saying that he committed an act of omission when he negligently failed to supervise. But APRO ka, I mean, APRO talks to...
Tenuous.
APRO talks to... The APRO head, Zaldico, I would imagine would always be talking to the speaker. I mean...
Constantly.
Di ba? Parang you're the head. In the same way that...
And isn't the final approval with the speaker?
It appears so.
So how can this be gross negligence? I understand that you will rely on the recommendation of the people who are actually there, the ones who conducted the hearings, the ones who accepted evidence, or the ones who interviewed the cabinet secretaries and their people with regard to the
Which brings me to the question, gaano ba katibay ang link mo between Escudero to Romualdez kung may kasama pang gross negligence na parang hindi siya masyadong malakas?
I think that in relation to Senator Escudero, it might be post-bicameral.
No, that's a small bicam eh.
Yes.
Remember? That was only si Zaldico and si Chis Escudero allegedly that...
That's
a small bicam.
Yeah.
That's where allegedly all these insertions happened and all this 150 billion or whatever amount it was decided in that small bicam. So that's why. But the thing is, which is mentioned previously, hindi naman nag-appear talaga ang Senate President at saka ang Speaker sa mga ganyan eh. So the finance head and the appropriations head just negotiate among themselves and the BICAM committee, and then they just report to the Speaker. But here in this case, some people are saying, matalino si Speaker, hindi siya pumunta doon sa small BICAM. Chis Escudero went to the small BICAM. And that's why he is being identified as one of the proponents of the insertions.
You would think.
Yeah,
yes.
it would appear so because Bilyonaryo got the film on that.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So our next topic by the spokes would be Ombudsman Remulla ICE Task Force to look into infrastructure projects that may have directly benefited the Villar properties in the Las Piñas, Bacoor area.
I think this really goes into the Duterte administration. This is where he's heading. So we're looking at the build projects. What's that? The Zapote Road, additional ones. Supposedly they benefited the projects of the Villar companies, Villar-related companies, because they directly feeded into these areas.
But isn't that the same as the case filed by Sonny Trillanes on Bongo, on the CLTG naman, that it also benefited the father and the half-brother of Bongo during the time of the Duterte administration? By the way, I have a question for you. In a plunder case, the burden of proof shifts to the, shifts to the respondent or the defendant.
Because you already have the money, so most of those things are already presumed.
If this is a plunder case that they intend to file against either the Villars, and I think Sonny Trillanes already filed a plunder case against Bongo. So the burden of proof shifts to them to explain.
Exactly. Although, to be fair, Senator Mark Villar did make a statement. He did appear in the ICI, if I'm not mistaken. And he did clarify that he had nothing to do with it. He was the DPWH secretary during the time of at least during the time for build. So we're going to, that was the time na hindi pa publicized the ICI hearings.
But this case is not filed directly, personally against Mark Villar.
No.
It's the Villars.
It's probably the companies. So we're going to have to see. It's difficult kasi pag companies, you have to determine the personal liability of the people who are involved, directly involved.
But I also think that there's a connection of related interest. I think it's that's where it makes
with Secretary Mark Villar. So it puts him in the hot seat.
And that's 18 billion pala. Medyo
So I say,
malaki-laki
so
rin,
they
ano?
say yes. So, now, that also brings also to fore, again, your question. How relevant is the ICI now? Secretary Boying is directly calling for the task force. So now you'll have a task force under the Ombudsman, and then you still have the ICI.
And the funny thing was, in the case of when Attorney Brian Hosaka of the ICI was asked on the question of the case, what's your view on the case of Sonny Trillanes against Bongo? He made it practically made itself irrelevant by saying, may case na yan, bahala na si Ombudsman. Eh di kung gano'n, di bahala na si Ombudsman na lang lahat ng Because ipa-file naman ang kaso sa
And he's directly investigating. So now
Correct.
we have two parallel investigations.
Which is why, isn't that a duplication of resources? Diba, sayang naman ng pera kung kaya naman gawin na ni Ombudsman, which is the premier watchdog,
Yes.
constitutional body that investigates all these anomalies in government.
That's
So-
inherent. Yao.
So, question now is,
This is a rabbit hole, huh? So,
yeah. It's really it's very procedural, very process issue. So the solution is not fast, and you have to find process to fix the whole process.
well, for me, the public is crying for blood, so I hope they give it, one way or another.
Yes, that's
From
true.
lawmakers facing flood control to allegations to powerful families under scrutiny for infrastructure gains, the pressure for accountability is rising on multiple fronts.
And while corruption probes make headlines on land, vigilance is just as critical at sea. We'll be joined by Commander Jay Tarriela of the Philippine Coast Guard when the spokes return after this short break.
And the spokes is back, and we're going to talk about the tensions remaining high in the West Philippine Sea, with new developments like China's creation of a nature reserve at Scarborough Shoal and reports of yellow buoys at Masinloc.
To give us the latest on WPS operations and the challenges they face, we're joined by Commodore Jay Tarriela, Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea. Just to clarify, is it Commander? Is it Commodore?
Oh, are we
It's
referring to you
Commodore,
by
sir.
that? Okay.
Okay.
A one-star rank.
My apologies for calling you Commander. I
It's
think it's a
okay,
rank
sir.
lower.
One lang ba? Okay, so could you give us what are the recent events now in the South China Sea that have given rise to, it's part of the rising tensions in the area?
Well, I don't think that we can say that there is a rising tension in the West Philippine Sea.
Really?
I would argue that the tension in the West Philippine Sea has been the same since the previous two administrations, wherein the Chinese have been deploying their China Coast Guard vessels within our own exclusive economic zone. They're harassing the Filipino fishermen. This has been happening even before.
So what is this nature reserve?
Yes, that's the most latest development, wherein the Chinese government announced that they're going to make Bajo de Masinloc as a nature reserve. But
And
again,
Bajo de Masinloc, we have standing claims on it.
yes, and
It's ours, by the
it's
way.
ours, not
It's
just standing
ours.
claims.
It's a
Right.
The
standing claim.
2016 Arbitral Award
bad, yes.
has already invalidated the claim
Alright.
of the People's Republic of China. The DFA has already issued a statement about this, and we said that this is ours. We have maritime jurisdiction over Bajo de Masinloc. It's not disputed.
Bajo de Masinloc, do we have sovereignty or sovereign rights?
Well, that is not a low tide elevation. That is a rock. So if we're going to use the
territorial.
2016 Arbitral Award, we have territorial sea.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, that's a very
No,
interesting.
territorial sea? No. It's a
High tide
high
elevation.
tide elevation,
So
but
it
does not,
generates
is not
territorial
capable
sea.
of sustaining life or so no territorial sea.
No, according to the 2016 Arbitral Award, there are only two maritime features. The
Alright,
low tide elevation, which cannot generate
course,
territorial
yes,
sea, but the high tide elevation or rock, this is something...
Wait, territorial sea, but no EEZ. Sorry, yes, my bad.
So
All
it
right,
has territorial sea, and we have sovereignty over the
Bajo de Masinloc.
Yes.
All right. So, but the nature reserve is supposed to be built there. Is
Yes.
that what they're saying? Or are they doing something? Is there an active and overt act?
Well, the most recent thing that they did is they deployed 2 floating buoys.
Okay.
One on the center of the shoal, and the other one is on the northernmost part of Bajo de Masinloc.
What is the significance of having buoys there?
Well, those buoys, we still don't know whether it can be able to gather data. But according to our last operation, Bajo de Masinloc, the Chinese government are justifying their operations in driving away the Filipino fishermen away from Bajo de Masinloc, because they're saying that this is a nature reserve and Filipino fishermen are no longer allowed to fish.
What are we doing to address that?
Well, under this administration, we have what we call Kadiwa, para sa bagong bayaning mangingisda. We have concentrated the Coast Guard vessels deployment in West Philippine Sea, particularly in those areas na alam nating pangisdaan ng ordinaryong Pilipino. You can see it in the news. We have more presence right now.
It's a Coast Guard presence.
Yes, and Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. This is a cooperation between BFAR and Coast Guard to support the livelihood of ordinary Filipino fishermen.
Just for the audience, the BFAR has law enforcement capability.
Yes,
So,
BFAR has fishery law enforcement.
Yes.
function.
So, parang NBI ng dagat. Ganon. Yeah. So, together with a law enforcement agency, you're establishing a presence to protect our fishermen.
Yes, and
in the
also
area.
to provide, not just provide safety and security, but we also distribute fuel subsidy for the Filipino fishermen to prolong their stay in their fishing expedition in the West Philippines.
Has the BFAR begun any project that will help fishermen to have a longer-term capability? I understand, under the Duterte administration, there was a proposal to equip our fishermen with bigger boats as cooperatives so that they would stay in these areas longer and fish there longer. Mas makakatulong yun to establish our presence. Has this been continued?
I think there was a plan during that time.
Yes,
I'm not really
yes,
sure
there
whether
was
it was
Was it executed?
impactfully implemented because the same indigenous boats are being used by
being
the
used
Filipino
now.
fishermen.
So
If the
right now
previous
you're
administration-
protecting those boats.
Yes, if the third administration was really very good in distributing.
No, it was towards
Much
the
more
end,
modern
and this was
vessels.
during a pandemic.
Yeah.
So just
That
to
could have- yeah.
contextualize it. So, but yeah,
First of all, I'd just like to congratulate the Philippine Coast Guard. Fundamentally because it has been called the bravest Coast Guard in the world. Demonstrably so despite overwhelming odds. No? It was mentioned by a defense security analyst by the name of Ray Powell, who, by the way, I saw a documentary a year ago by CBS, 60 Minutes, a very powerful TV show in the States, where it showed your Coast Guard, one of your Coast Guard colleague got his thumb cut by
yeah.
the constant harassment of the Chinese. No? And there, I saw they were carrying axe. And the recent one where the Chinese Coast Guard and a Chinese Navy vessel collided in pursuit. Is that a Coast Guard or a military?
Between PLA Navy warship and the
Right.
China Coast Guard vessels. Right?
Which tried to go after, chase a Coast Guard vessel?
Yes, chasing 4406, one of our 44-meter Coast Guard vessel.
Wow. So it caused, although it wasn't reported, there were casualties, there's damage to the Chinese Coast Guard vessel. No?
Well, obviously, sir, based on the accident that happened, we can just predict that there are a lot of casualties that happened during that time. But until now, there is no official statement from the Chinese government whether there are people who have been harmed or even casualties.
But true to your calling, in spite of that, you radio them and offered assistance to any injured.
Yes, sir. Despite of all the harassment, the blocking, and dangerous
Right.
maneuver, right after the incident, we offered assistance for medical support.
There is an ongoing concern right now because we've just recently established, yesterday, Trixie informed us that the Philippines entered into a VFA with Canada. No? How does that impact you as a Coast Guard, being a civilian agency? Does it affect you or it doesn't?
Well, for the BFA, I think the Department of National Defense and the Armed Forces of the Philippines is in better position to comment on that. But just to highlight the fact that the Canadian government is also supporting the Philippine Coast Guard capability. We are also using their dark vessel detection.
I heard about that.
Yes.
What's a
What
dark
is a
vessel
dark
detection?
vessel
So the dark vessel
yes,
detection, ma'am, is the ships are actually using automatic identification system (AIS). What the Chinese maritime militia and the Chinese Coast Guard vessels usually do is that they turn that off so that you cannot detect them through satellite. But the dark vessel detection is smart enough to use radio frequencies. So even if you turn off your AIS, as long as you're using radio equipment, it can still track you.
And identify you as
And
whether you're
identify you eventually.
But radio frequencies are uniform, di ba? Otherwise, you cannot communicate with each other if you don't use the same radio frequency.
Well, yes, but the radio waves actually is the
Okay.
one that is being used for them to target those vessels that are roaming around the sea.
Oh, interesting. So that's a feature that Canada is offering.
Yes.
Oh, and the U.S. doesn't offer that in their visiting forces, or is that something we're not supposed to know? but it's really, and I know for a fact that recently Octa survey came out with a finding that almost 76%, I think, trust the Philippine Coast Guard, and very, very Trixie, very, very notably, Davao does not trust you.
Well, yes, of course.
So is that the function of, because it's the Dutertes are, I mean, by the way, you've had a run-in with Congressman Paulo Duterte. What happened to that?
Well, first of all, I just highlighted facts. One,
Such as.
such as
No, wait, first of all, you were responding to him, right?
yeah, I responded to him
what was he
because
saying?
Oh, yeah. Sige,
he
let's
called
start
out
with what-
General Browner about the Typhoon missile, that we're not supposed to use that because it would eventually provoke other countries.
Because those missiles can reach China.
Yes, because that missile can reach China.
Is that a ballistic missile?
It's a Typhoon missile system, sir.
Okay.
So, and then he also added that he is concerned with the Filipinos, for the Filipino interests. We should not be saying those kind of things. And he even asked, like, who is he serving, General Browner? Is he serving the Filipino people or the CIA? He mentioned those kind of things. So I responded to those issues that he pointed out.
And you essentially
Why-
responded.
well, yeah.
What was your response?
Well, I responded that, one, it's wrong to think that developing our capability would provoke anybody, even China. As a sovereign state, we have our obligation, our rights, and responsibility to the Filipino people to develop our capability defensively. We're not saying that we're going to target anybody. Second, it's wrong to think that we are just dictated by the CIA or the United States. We have our own strategic agency. The President Marcos has mentioned this a lot of times. We think on our own. It's not something that is dictated by the United States.
So we essentially, what the government and any government should be saying is, we're fighting for our own national interests.
Yes.
Is there development ongoing if the Typhoon missiles belong to the U.S. and they're simply here?
I don't think that
What
would
you're
be
saying is
something
that, of course, and yes, I agree with you that the Philippines ought to develop a capability
Yeah.
for our own defense, and we
Yeah.
are working on that, I understand. But having the Typhoon missiles here, is that any form of development?
Well, having Typhoon missile here is, whether it will be used for exercise or something, it is definitely a
Can they be
deterrent.
used for exercises?
Well, I don't know. It's
I
for the Armed
assume that
Forces
if
of
you
the
launch one, that's it.
Yes. Again, when you say exercises, it doesn't really mean that
You're going to use it. All right. But I think what Congressman Paulo Duterte was saying is that even assuming that we reach the point where you actually use one, within the time that the missile leaves for China, China can already retaliate, which gives him pause. He raises the issue of our national security regarding that. So
So
this
what
was
is he
the-
saying? Since the
well,
Chinese
I'm not
government
arguing with
and-
you, and I'm not arguing on
No, I'm
behalf
just,
of Congressman Duterte.
yeah.
I'm just clarifying that this was the statement to which you responded I assume you're responding for
Yes.
General Bronner.
No, I'm not responding for General Browner. I think any fake news or disinformation about the West Philippine Sea is an obligation for every single Filipino.
So the presence of Typhoon missiles pointed out by Congressman Paulo Duterte is disinformation.
Yeah, for you to argue that it would provoke anybody is already a fake news because you are threatening the Filipino people that once you do something defensively to develop your capability, it would provoke China and then China will eventually launch
He
their
did
missile.
not mention
Yeah,
development.
you just said it, right? That the reason
No,
why
he
he's
said
saying is
just
China
that
will
if
eventually...
the missile leaves, it
Yeah.
was oddly specific.
Yeah, that's how you explain
But
it.
I
right?
think the premise there is it's used as a defensive capability, meaning that you're not
Yes.
going to do the first strike.
that is a defensive capability. It's not an offensive one.
And by the
Is
way,
there a guarantee of that?
About what?
That it's going to be used purely for defensive capability?
It was clearly stipulated by General Browner a lot of times.
Stipulated by General Browner.
Yeah, he mentioned that it is
statements,
defensive
yes.
capability. We are developing
But what is our
modernization of the armed
agreement
forces of
with
the Philippines
the-
is more on defense,
What
not
about
offense.
Our agreement with the United States? This is part of our defense cooperation, correct?
Yes.
With the United States, we have no agreement or no document pertaining to any events in the Taiwan Strait, but we do with Australia. So,
we have a mutual defense treaty to do that. So,
Yes.
mutual defense treaty, unlike a visiting forces agreement, you don't automatically invoke defense. Mutual defense
Yes.
treaty is different.
Yes.
The visiting forces agreement does not require the other country to rise in the defense of the Philippines. A mutual defense treaty allows that, and it's been what, 84-year-old, an 84-year-old
Since 1951.
So that's something that we have a treaty with the United States.
Right.
Whether we want to invoke it is one question. Whether the United States would do it is another question. So, but that is a treaty that we can hold the United States to in case we are invaded. We are a small country, so I doubt we will be taking the first strike to hit China. It
Precisely
doesn't-
the point.
it doesn't
Why
work
would we
like
even
that.
strike China for no reason?
what about the visiting forces? Would they?
What about it?
Would they? Excuse me. Would they, just in case, and in retaliation to any act of aggression that they perceive, retaliate before?
No, the visiting forces agreement don't do that. It's not part of
Using the Typhoon missiles that are here.
The visiting forces agreement does not require the partner it's automatic assistance to us. It's just training exercises. Unlike a mutual defense treaty, where you are, when you're asked to defend us,
So, yes.
they're obligated. But a visiting forces agreement is for training.
Agreed.
Training.
Improvement of technology.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's part of it. So that's not you don't. They're not bound to defend us. It's up to them. But that's the difference between a visiting forces agreement and a mutual defense treaty.
The Coast Guard is also involved, of course, in rescue and relief. In
Yes.
fact, that is what they're known for. And I agree with the bravest Coast Guard in the world because of their, no, seriously, because of your rescue and relief efforts.
What about in the West Philippine Sea?
That's not kasi obvious, but kudos on the West Philippine Sea as well, of course. And how is the serviceman who lost a thumb? How is he doing?
Well, just to clarify, the serviceman who lost a thumb is actually part of the Philippine Navy. He's
Navy,
not
yes.
a Coast Guard personnel.
No, but
okay.
anyway, you responded, so I was just wondering if he's okay.
Yeah, he's okay.
Is
so
he
matter of
still
fact,
in
they
the
even have,
service?
yes, he's still in the service.
Nice. And what about what I'm saying is that in our mutual we have an agreement on the visiting forces that in fact it's contained in all visiting forces agreements that these forces will assist in rescue and relief efforts and disaster responses. Have they been doing this? Because
Well,
you are one of the primary responders.
I cannot speak for the Armed Forces of the Philippines since they are with the visiting force agreement is between the military. So definitely, perhaps, but,
But
I'm
have
not.
they
I'm not.
assisted you, the Coast Guard? Not yet?
For the Coast Guard of the
Yes.
other countries? Are you referring?
No. Have they, the visiting forces, because it's part of the agreement, have they assisted? Because the Coast Guard is primary in rescue and relief. Not yet.
Let me first clarify. The Visiting Force Agreement is between the military. The
Yes.
Coast Guard is not part of the military. There are other ways that foreign governments are supporting the Coast Guard for rehabilitation, rescue, disaster relief, but I cannot clearly stipulate whether it is through BFA or their foreign military or whatsoever. But to be fair with all those countries whom they signed the BFA,
Yes.
they are very helpful in whatever capacity that we need to strengthen our capability and also to distribute relief.
They have been distributing relief.
They are not distributing relief. It is the Coast Guard through us.
So
if
they
we have our
have,
disaster relief operation.
You're distributing for them.
Not this. Let us first clarify this, ma'am. No. Again, the Visiting Force Agreement is with the military. Okay?
Yes.
I'm not saying that it's through their military that they're giving us relief goods. Okay? I'm saying is that whether it's Australia, Canada, or whatever countries, they're also supporting Coast Guard for the distribution of, for us to distribute the relief that may come from them.
Thank you very much for your answer.
Okay, so as you lead transparency efforts in the West Philippine Sea, how transparent can we really be without compromising national security? But before you answer that, let's pause. Will return after this short break. Our hanging question before we took a short break, Commodore Tarriela, as you lead transparency efforts in the West Philippine Sea, how can one be transparent without necessarily compromising national security?
Well, first of all, the transparency efforts of the Philippine government when it comes to the West Philippine Sea is that we only publicize all those incidents that are happening in the West Philippine Sea. We publicize incidents that harass Filipino fishermen, or whether they used water cannon against a Coast Guard vessel as we patrol the West Philippine Sea. But we're not disclosing anything that concerns our national security interests.
So there's none that you can confidently say that you've compromised?
No.
And by the way,
Isn't that kind of a tightrope, di ba? Don't you find it difficult? Just I need to ask.
Well, for me, it's not a tightrope because, again, we have to go back why this government decided to be transparent about the West Philippine Sea. We know for a fact that President Marcos has inherited a country wherein there's very limited information about the West Philippine Sea from the previous administration. And to be very specific, there were only 3 incidents that were publicized during the time of the Duterte administration. First, in 2019, when fishermen from Mindoro experienced intentional ramming from the Chinese maritime militia. They went to the media and they said, we were rammed and left to die. When it reached Malacanang, ang sabi ng ating Pangulo noon, simpleng banggaan lang to. 2021, March, when the Philippine Coast Guard publicized photos of 220 Chinese maritime militia. When it reached Malacanang, Attorney Harry Roque said, we don't have to worry about it because it's not part of our exclusive economic zone. But to
Where
fact
did this
check him,
happen?
in Julian Felipe Reef. Julian Felipe Reef, just to fact check him, it only has a distance of 180 nautical miles from Rizal, Palawan. The third incident was when Secretary Delfin Lorenzana took it to his own social media account, condemning the Chinese use of water cannon against the resupply mission that we're doing November of 2021. Those are the only 3 incidents that were publicized.
Okay.
And it was not even intentional for the admin. So for President Marcos to get the support of the Filipino people, for him to deliver his commitment of not surrendering a square inch of our territory to any foreign power, we need to make the Filipino people aware that there is really this threat and aggressive action from the part of the People's Republic of China.
you know, we're now delving into the political side of this whole thing. How do you handle the political pressure in pressures from China and also from our own domestic criticisms?
Well, for me, Sir Edwin, when we talk about the West Philippine Sea, I don't think that you need to consider your political party. Whether you supported the Duterte, you supported the Aquino, or we're supporting right now the current administration. When we talk about the West Philippine Sea, kahit saan ka pa, whether Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, it has something to be fought for by any Filipinos, kahit ano pang political color.
Let me ask you, do you believe that all our public officials should rally behind the flag?
Well, not just our public officials, but all of us Filipinos. Kung nasa public or private ka man, all of us should rally behind the flag. All of us should fight for what is ours in the West Philippines.
But some public officials speak less than the others.
And not just speak less than the others, some would even contradict our own position.
In government.
In government. I mean, not in the administration's cabinet official,
Right.
but even
Not
the
in the
legislative,
executive.
not in
What
the
about
executive. In legislative, some people are even saying that the West Philippine Sea is not, it's just a pigment of our imagination.
Who said that? Meow meow?
Yeah. No, seriously, who said that?
Well, we know some of those who.
And you had a run-in with another congressman, si Kiko Barsaga.
Yes, sir.
What did he say?
He wants to abolish the Philippine Coast Guard.
Bakit?
For two reasons. One, it's because he believes that we are going to be the reason of World War III. Two, because he thinks that we are taking orders from, according to him, from Vice Admiral Martin Romualdez, because he is now part of the Philippine Coast Guard, without even explaining that the Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary is actually a volunteer organization, and those are honorary ranks. They do not have any say about the
command.
operations of the
Yes,
Coast Guard.
and no command.
And no command at all.
But what is the value of these, the voluntary auxiliary?
Well, these are volunteers. If you want, you can also apply. Ma'am Trixie, you can join the Coast Guard
I
Auxiliary.
was waiting for an invitation.
I am inviting you now. You can join the Coast Guard Auxiliary. But these are just
You have to be
volunteers.
loyal to the Coast Guard, ha? Hindi ka pwedeng
If he's joining, I want to outrank him, ha?
Yes, of course. O hindi, exempted ako sa military service kaya...
So, no, but yes, back to the auxiliary. What is the value of this? Do they help you in any way?
Well, the Coast Guard Auxiliary can support the Coast Guard in various ways, but not related to maritime law enforcement or maritime security. They support us in terms of maritime safety in, for example, the search and rescue. There are instances na there are Coast Guard auxiliaries who are technical divers, for example, who would volunteer their services to help us recover some dead bodies
Yes.
after the maritime
Jesse
incident.
Lobredo.
Yeah, in technical divers.
And then they are also supporting us for technical capability, for example, for oil spill sometimes. And
For
they're also
the
doing
cleanups,
coastal
yes,
cleanup.
yes.
They also have scuba surero, something like that.
Are you involved in the Tanyon Strait?
I'm sorry. Sir.
There's an ongoing spill of
Sa Bayes?
molasses wastewater in the Tanyon Strait.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but
Negros
the entire West Philippine Sea
Oriental.
is so... I'm
Because
so preoccupied.
my apologies
with
because
West
you're with
Philippine
the
Sea. Yeah.
transparency office.
And only for the West
I
Philippine Sea.
apologize. I apologize. But
My problem with some of us Filipinos, when Chinese speak of invading Taiwan, they're called patriots. When we talk about defending ourselves, we are accused of being warmongers. Do you get that feeling?
Well, yeah. And it's all because of the defeatist mindset. That wala na tayong magagawa sa China. Na kapag we choose to stand up for our rights in the West Philippine Sea, magkakagera in just a matter of days, katulad ng sinabi ni Atty. Trixie kanina, makakapag-launch agad daw ng missile ang China. Those kind of things. And to be fair with the Filipino people, kung ikaw, ordinaryong Pilipino ka, if that will be the statements that will be coming from the government, definitely it will confuse you and threaten your security. Especially so kung magulang ka, you will think about the future of your children. But we are already addressing this. We are telling the Filipino people that we don't want war. It will not be a result for a much more bigger conflict with China. We choose to stand up for our rights in the West Philippine Sea, and it's not something that will provoke China or escalate the tension.
I'm not sure which general said it, but that to attain peace, you prepare for war.
Yeah.
So, and this is part of the preparations for that. With the easing of tensions between the U.S. and China, How are we reacting to that?
You know, we should understand the fact that the Philippines, as an independent nation, we're not actually relying to anybody. As what the President has been mentioning, we have exercised independent foreign policy.
Yes.
And to be fair with our efforts in diversifying our alliance, we are not just getting support from the United States. We even have BFA with other countries. Four
Foreign
countries
tayo.
additional. And even the European Union,
But
the
more
Germans,
in the works.
French.
We have 3 more in the works.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, to argue that the U.S. will not be a reliable ally because they already have easing tension
Oh,
with
that's
China.
not what we're saying. I'm just wondering if we are adjusting to that.
Adjusting, again, it's not something for us to worry. We have more allies to depend on, or to think that it will not just be the Philippines all by himself.
You're the spokes for transparency on the West Philippine Sea. Are you concerned that sometimes your statements might affect other relationships? Because as Attorney Edwin constantly reminds me, is that foreign relations is on many levels.
Yes.
So of course, the defense and security between 2 countries, one concern, but we have cultural exchange agreements, we have diplomatic relations, we have trade relations. So do you think that you're affecting these other relations?
You know, Attorney Trixie, the Department of Foreign Affairs have responded to this question a lot of times. And I agree with you. Our engagement with China is multifaceted. It is not just focused on the West Philippine Sea. That's not the entirety of our engagement with China. As you stipulated, these are different channels and relations that we're doing with China. And West Philippine Sea is not the totality of it.
So, but how does it affect the others?
Well, the mere fact that we are still engaging China with all those things that you mentioned, I think Chinese government also realized that fact.
They have dialed back on certain trade matters, like there's some imports that they're no longer importing, agricultural products in particular. So do you think this is in relation in any way to that part? Like we said, there are many
I can answer you that.
relationships.
They're just leveraging their power
Yes.
talaga. It doesn't have to do with the Coast Guard. It's just making sure that...
Can we leverage our power then?
Well, the mere fact that the President has been visiting different countries for us to be more economically resilient, to engage more investors, and to get more trade agreements with other countries, I think that is something that we're also considering.
You know, just a final question. We're running out of time. You know, you've been on the forefront of transparency. If there's a one face that will show patriotism, that's you're one of us, Commodore Tarriela. So my question to you is, how does this mean to you, the maritime patriotism that you've exhibited, and what's the lesson learned to be learned by the next generation of Philippine Coast Guard officers?
Yeah.
No, sir. According to Justice Carpio, our fight for the West Philippine Sea is intergenerational. It is something that we're going to pass on to the next generation. If there is really ultimate objective that I have right now, that is for our younger generations to understand what we're fighting for and why we're fighting for it. That is our obligation right now, to hold the line and also to prepare the younger generations to make sure that eventually, in probably 3 decades, 4 decades, or even a century, we're going to be victorious, knowing the fact that on the side of the history, we never let them down and we prepared them for it.
Very passionate defense. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience.
And the spokes will still return after this short break. That was a very good discussion with you and Commodore Jay Tarriela. I couldn't put in my point because I agree with him. So
No, but I like how he what's that Japanese saying? Fall down 6 times, get up 7.
Oh, okay.
How he just keeps on keeping on. And I think that is a very good trait. Not just for a spokesperson, because that's really his official designation, but to anybody in the defensive forces. So, yeah.
You know, the capability of the Philippine Coast Guard really needs to still be upgraded. We have our Coast Guard vessels, I think, it's only about 44 meters, if I'm not mistaken, compared to the Chinese vessel, Navy vessel, and the Chinese Coast Guard vessel is over 100 meters. So we really need to develop and upgrade the capability. We have very, very brave men and women in the Coast Guard, and they've shown themselves above and beyond and above the call of duty. So,
Maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Kaya talagang kailangan natin, kasi they're the frontline, di ba? They're the frontliners. And the reason why hindi nagre-react before during the time of GMA, there were a number of cases where Chinese fishermen were being...
We were detaining them.
We were detaining them, and the
Yes,
people detaining them were the Coast Guard. So it was treated
Yes.
like a domestic issue. And the Chinese would never complain about it. And in fact, we would return the Chinese fishermen.
Even the vessels.
Even the vessels.
Even the vessels.
So,
what we would keep were the illegal catch.
but this is where it has really escalated now into
Iba na Iba na
getting
ngayon,
our territory, getting our Bao de Masinloc, the Scarborough Shoal. It was during our time when they decided to take that. And there was an agreement. Ambassador Thomas of the U.S. mediated.
Harry Thomas?
Harry Thomas mediated and said, sabay kayong umalis, withdraw from the Scarborough Shoal. And both parties agreed. I remember that because we were on our way to Indonesia.
He was the one who said this.
He was the one who tried to mediate China
Okay.
and the Philippines. And so the agreement was, both of you will withdraw from the Scarborough
Yes,
Shoal.
yeah.
And when the president, he gave the go signal, o sige, go na, before we left for Indonesia. We landed in Indonesia, and we learned ang Pilipinas na ang honored the agreement, and the Chinese just
Did
stayed
not.
there. They were really in bad faith talaga.
But why did we go first?
Because that was the agreement, so we followed that.
Philippines ang aalis muna?
Hindi. Sabay.
Di ba dapat sabay?
Sabay aalis.
So why did the Philippines leave when the Chinese
Because
were...
that's the agreement. We are very honorable people. For the simplest reason, we are honorable people, and we honor whatever agreements have made. And the Chinese betrayed that agreement. That's why that's something that we cannot.
There was an agreement then. The Chinese agreed.
Yes, the Chinese
To
agreed
the-
to withdraw simultaneously.
Because they
with the
deny
Philippines.
that right now.
Yeah.
But thank you for that perspective, because that's genuine. I mean, I need that from a personal point of view. So this wraps up today's episode of the very exciting episode of The Spokes. For now, don't settle for just one side of the story.
Because again, every issue has two perspectives, and the truth may be somewhere in between.
I'm attorney Trixie Cruz-Angeles.
And I'm attorney Edwin Lacierda, and this is
The Spokes.